Are you ready to continue on in this virtual world? Well, with the beginning of 2021, we are all set to start with new budgets. Budgets are in full swing, and a lot of corporations are looking at, well, how can they make the most impact on their budget? And one of those ways is converting their instructor-led content into virtual training because, well, we probably won't be going to any conferences or big trainings for quite some time. So in this video, we're going to talk about the 3 mistakes you need to stop making when converting your instructor-led content to virtual. I'm Vanessa, and on this channel, I help aspiring instructional designers and e-learning developers get off of the sidelines and get into the L&D game. And so, like I mentioned earlier, we are going to talk about the top 3 mistakes you need to stop making when converting your instructor-led content to virtual. So, I'm not gonna lie, I'm very happy to see 2021, but I was also really looking forward to 2021 at the end of 2019. I've heard some personal reasons, maybe a psychic told me that was gonna be my year, just saying. Anyway, it honestly felt like the end of 2020, those last few days, minus the fact that I was like, ooh, I wonder what big bang is gonna happen at the end of 2020. I just felt like a weight was about to be lifted off of my shoulders, that tumultuous year was going to be over. I mean, my Christmas cards even said, well, that was crazy. Happy 2021, finally. So I was clearly really looking forward to 2021 and really looking forward to how we can start actually really taking a look at our training content and putting some effort and intention behind it. I felt like a lot of training content in 2020 was just kind of rushed to meet the need because we couldn't meet in person anymore, and follow through wasn't always done, or really good, well thought out processes could be done because everyone was in a mad dash. And I totally get that, and I don't actually fault that really. It was just a symptom of where we were at that time, right? And that craziness. Well, now we're in 2021, and I don't excuse that type of behavior. We know better. We should be thinking about our training content and thinking about how to make it the most impactful. And these are the 3 mistakes that I saw, that I see, and I have seen a lot of these even before 2020, to be perfectly honest with you. So mistake number 1 is not optimizing the web or the video conference tool that you're using. And there are a lot of options out there, and there are a lot of options that are coming with those tools, and they just keep getting better and better, I feel like almost daily. So real talk, I was told by a colleague that an instructor actually didn't know how to use the whiteboard or how to share her screen or her slides, and she would actually take things that she was trying to show to the class, and she would write it on a piece of paper and then put it up to the camera, and that was how she would be able to relay some information that she needed to relay in a visual sense. And that was just wow. That was a lot for me to take in when she told me. And I mean, I totally understand not being up on the technology, but like that was bad. So taking some time to learn how to optimize your web conferencing, your video conferencing tool, definitely a big mistake. So mistake number 2 I saw a lot of is removing the human element from training. And let's not lie, 90% of the time, or 90% of the reason that we love training or conferences is networking time and time to BS with your friends, or just time to idea share even if it's not just total networking and just chatting. We love the ability to idea share and learn from others. And that was stripped away, I saw a lot of the time during virtual training through 2020. And that is a huge mistake. You still need that. You just need to be a little bit more creative. And so if you keep watching this video, we're going to talk a little bit about how to fix these mistakes. So keep on watching. So mistake number 3 that I saw a lot was not optimizing your content for the new virtual setting. So a lot of people literally take their instructor-led content and just transfer it virtually, right? With basically the same, maybe some adjustments to some activities and things like that, but most of the content was straight lift and shift to a virtual setting, and that was just such a mistake. People cannot sit in front of a camera for that long, or sit in front of a computer screen. I mean, to be perfectly honest, once they're out of that training, they probably have 2 or 3 virtual Zoom meetings to attend right after your training. So they're going from your, virtual training, being on video and whatnot, to going to another setting where they have to be back on video and things like that. We're turning into these zombies. And I just feel like now, more than ever, there are more videos, conferences, there are more calls, there's more meetings. Like, for some reason, once we all went virtual, we needed to meet always and have our cameras turned on all the time. I truly just miss the day of a conference call and not knowing who is going to jump in when and trying to interject and say, oh, no, you go, all you. I miss those days. So I know that a lot of people feel kind of weird and feel like they're being judged for their background, for their kid walking in, having, I cannot tell you how many times I've gone off camera to tell my kid to close the door, mommy's in a meeting, or please stop going into the Halloween candy that's in this office. So there are all these different things. There are distractions that if your camera's turned on, it kind of can be embarrassing. And even though it's kind of become normal, it's still not something that we want. We want to have that separation between work and home, and we don't have that. So I think that if we're not optimizing how we're doing virtual meetings, that really is a huge disservice. Even just the length of time that we're in training and not adjusting that for the virtual setting, it's really just a huge mistake. So how do we correct these? Well, first, take the time to play around with the web conferencing tool. Play around with different tools that you can utilize on the web to help enhance your training. So for one of my clients, we use Google Jamboard a lot, and it allows for that interactivity and the ability to save the Jamboard that we created and come back to it in later modules. Something that we don't really use with the whiteboard. We could accomplish a very similar activity. With the whiteboard, we just decided to use Google Jamboard just for some of the additional abilities and capabilities that it had. And we really love that we're able to save it. People can come back to it while we're not in session. They can add additional things to it. And then later on through the modules, we're going back to that Jamboard. We're pulling it back up, and we're talking about how we can take those goals that we talked about in the beginning of our time together, and how we can then apply it based on what we learned throughout our session. And that is just one way that we can utilize technology a little bit better and really be creative about all the technology that is out there. And I will say that my client in this case was very tech adverse, but she's not very tech savvy, and she's a little bit scared of the Google Jamboard and the permissions and getting everything set up. But with a couple of times of practice, she loves it, and she's asking us, can we put a Google Jamboard in this session? Can we do this? And she's starting to really open up to the idea of using different tools and ways to interact. Another thing that I think that we can improve upon is the use of breakout rooms and the use of networking time and just time to connect. So a lot of people will pull out, because they're trying to condense now their training, perhaps they'll pull out things like icebreakers, or they'll pull out games or activities, and that's just a disservice. That's the fun time. That's the time that we get to do something that is not, head down focused on what we're learning. And sometimes what we're learning is a really serious topic, right? If we're doing something on diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's a heavy topic. So having those moments where we can do something like a virtual scavenger hunt or a game using Kahoot or something like that, those types of things allow you to bring in some human element, some connection amongst the attendees, connecting yourself as the facilitator with your classroom, or with your learners, and it just makes things a little bit lighter and a little bit more fun. Even if you just do a simple icebreaker, it doesn't have to be crazy. It could be something like, raise your hand if you did this, like a safe for work, never have I ever, would be a really fun icebreaker. Or even just doing fun facts, just some way that you can get to connect your team and connect your training your training attendees, I think is such a huge service. So taking that 15 minutes in the beginning and making it a non-negotiable to do something is really huge. And then the last tip I have for you to correct these mistakes is to take the time to reimagine the content, right? So taking 8 hours of new hire training and moving it completely virtual and just sitting in front of a computer all day, that's not going to cut it. Now is the time to be able to flex some of those creative juices that you have, some of that creativity, and reimagine that content and what is maybe a better modality to get that information across, or what is a different way that you can get that same information across using a different tool. So maybe it's a matter of taking some of the content and making it pre-work and post-work. Maybe it's a pre-work video, so now you're able to use that Vyond license and try your hand at creating Vyond explainer videos and things like that. And you're able to build up some new skills and some new areas using new technology. Maybe it's a matter of, you have a new hire training and you sit and you have your students, come to the training, you do a couple of activities together, or you go through some of the content, they leave, go to a Rise module or a Rise link where they're able to further learn more about, part of their new hire training. And then they actually have activities and they have scavenger hunts and they have some time to actually play around and do some exploring. So if it's an onboarding program, right, they're actually going out and they're finding the various resources, taking time to, poke through the company intranet and find, where they would find resources on X, Y, and Z. Just taking some time to be a little bit more creative rather than just saying, okay, so if you want to know about your health benefits, you're going to go to the intranet and click on, health benefits. Have them poke around and find it for themselves. Just make it a little bit more fun, and that pulls them out of being on the computer, being on. They can do it at their leisure. They can do it, they need to stop, take a break, tend to a child maybe that wants Halloween candy from their drawer, or whatever the case may be. They're able to do some of those things. And then it's about reimagining that activity, right? So, for example, one of my clients was talking about an activity where they do like a cobweb type activity, and they have a piece of yarn and they kind of toss it back and forth based on different commonalities and whatnot, just to kind of show that how they all interweave them. And we had to take some time to actually stop and be like, okay, well, how are we going to do that? Because I can't toss a thing of yarn through the computer. And we came up with a couple of different ways that we could have a similar outcome based on, reimagining some of that team building activity and that connection activity. So taking your content and just moving it straight online, that's not going to work. You need to take the time to sit back, be a little bit creative, and think about what are some ways that you can reimagine that content and let students have a break from being in front of the camera all day, and doing some things maybe a little bit more on their own, but it's a little bit better for the learning, and frankly, it saves you as the instructor from having to be on the whole time, because even after an hour and a half virtual session, I am exhausted. Whenever I train, no matter how short it is, I am totally spent, done, need a break, need a nap, probably need a glass of wine, but I need all of those things in order to recharge after giving my all during a facilitation. And so with that, if you're interested in learning more about virtual facilitation tips, give this video a thumbs up, and I can definitely add that to the docket of additional videos for the future, and we can talk more about how to build your presence on camera and get that training je ne sais quoi, shall we say, virtually. So, are you ready to take the next step in your L&D career? Well, click the link down below to download my free 6-step blueprint to break into the L&D field. Friends, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.